If you're wondering how to cut some sheetrock, I'm going to show you a couple of basic cuts here today. I'm going to show you how to cut across the width, which is known as a butt joint. And I'm going to show you how to cut a narrow piece off of one side, which we call rips. And I'm going to show you that right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back to That Kilted Guy, thatkiltedguy.com. We're going to show you some basic techniques of cutting sheetrock today. I'm not going to get into any of the more advanced stuff because there is a lot of advanced stuff like cutting out electrical boxes, cutting angles, cutting out around windows, and so on. I'm actually going to cover that in a separate video, so if you need to know that, be sure and watch. Check our video list, and you can also just subscribe. I can't say that word, subscribe, and click that little bell icon like you see in this illustration here, and that will notify you when we put out our next videos. And in that, I'm going to try and cover all kinds of advanced techniques for hanging. So today what we're just going to cover is I'm going to show you two ways to cut a butt joint off and a rip off. Both of them, I've got some really cool techniques you're going to like. It's going to speed things up a lot if you can learn them, but I'll show you the simple way too. Before I go much further, I want to make sure you guys know about our website. There's a link here on the screen. It's at thatkiltedguy.com. And why should that interest you? Well, we're going to put all of our videos there. We're going to categorize them by like our hanging series, our finishing series, and so on. But we're also going to provide you an online store where I will show you some suggestions for tools. Like I'll cover some of the tools you need for this project, and online I'll show you where you can get them. It'll be through Amazon, and it's not going to cost you a bit extra if you use our link, but it will help our channel. We also have an online t-shirt store, and no, this isn't one. I happened to be on a job today, decided to shoot the video, don't have one of my shirts, but you can see some of them here. We got a line of t-shirts if you're interested in following us that way. We also will do some printouts. You can print out some PDFs of some of our videos, some articles. There's a free guide on common mistakes that can ruin your drywall finish. Another one it's a free one on how to choose the right contractor. So there's tons of information. Go check that out. And as always, I hope you'll subscribe to our channel and follow us. Now, what you need for tools to do this, let's start out with that. So, first thing you need is, let's say, actually, the first thing, of course, is a tape measure. So, any decent tape measure is going to work. For cutting sheetrock, you need a knife. Now, I use a non-retractable knife. You can use a retractable one, but the reason we use non-retractable as pros is often we have to make a cut where we want to push deep into the rock and push really hard, and the retractable ones have a bad habit of retracting right at that moment. It's really annoying. So a utility knife. Of course, you're going to need a pencil. You're going to need, it's a good idea to have one of these. This is basically a hand plane. This one, I'll put the model up. We've got these in our store if you want to check it out. I really like this one with a quick change. You just undo this if you have to replace this blade instead of having to go hunt down a screwdriver. Same thing on this knife. I just picked this up. It's brand new. It's got a quick change blade system instead of needing a knife. Now, other hanging tools you might need would be a drywall hammer, and these are specific to drywall. If you use one that's not, make sure it's a smooth face. Don't get a framing hammer with the big deep marks on it. You're going to tear your paper up. And you might need a jab saw, utility saw like this. And then for the advanced cutting, you also may need a circle cutter like this, which by adjusting this right here, you can cut all kinds of different diameters of circles. And in the advanced video, I'll show you how to use a drywall router, which once you learn how to use that tool, it gives you a nice clean cut. You don't miss, you don't have tapes to tape the edges. It takes a little practice to get good at it, but it does give you nice clean cuts, and you don't have to do any measuring. It's really slick. It's what all the pros are using. But the final thing you need, of course, is a T-square. I'm going to show you how to do this without a T-square if you're cutting a smaller piece. and it's also because it's faster. So first thing is you got to have a measurement. So in this case we have, let's see, our measurement is 118 and 1/8, and we do everything in eighths as drywallers. So if I spout out a number like 6, 1/18/6, that means 3/4. I'll try and simplify it for you guys, but it's habit to do everything in eighths. And that's because there's several reasons for that. One is if I write out 118 and 3/4 on the wall, I gotta write 118 3/4. If I write out 118/6, I write out 118 and 6. It's just quicker. The other reason is a 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch sound the same. And when you're on a noisy job and you holler out 118 3/4, the other guy may hear 118 1/4, but you won't get them confused if you call it out as 6 or 2. So just know if I happen to say it that way, what I'm doing, but I'll try and keep it in quarters and eighths for you guys like you normally do. Because this one is 118/1 actually, what we do as pros, at least we do, I never seen another crew do this, but my dad taught me how to be really quick at this, so we learned to do math in our head. A sheet is 144 inches long. We hang these 12-foot sheets. Today we're hanging 5/8 on the ceiling, and so if they call out 118/1, I know that it's 25 7/8 off, and that's quicker because I don't have to walk all the way down here and do this. Come over here and go 118/1, and then if I'm going to cut it off my speedway, then I got to turn around and remeasure from that end anyway. So we know that 25 7/8 is right there. We learned to do that math real quick in our head. So you need your measurement. We got that marked now. Now what I recommend you guys use is this T-square, but I am going to show you the fast way to do it too. So with a T-square, if you're right-handed, line up your right edge right there on that mark, and then you would take and cut it. And I'm going to show you how to cut it, but I'm going to use my pencil because I'm going to show you the speedway, and that's when I'll actually cut it. So let's pretend this was your knife. You hold this on here, and then you cut it. And the way you do it is hold your foot against the bottom, hold it flat up here so that it's square, cut down about that far, turn around, and cut back up. Now you could do it the opposite way. You could cut up and then down, but you cut all the way through it and then you snap it, and I'll show you that in a minute. But let me show you the way we do it when it's a smaller piece like this. And if you learn this trick, it takes a bit of practice, so you definitely want to practice this, and I'd practice with a pencil first, because if you mess it up, of course you're going to have a bad cut. But what we do is we hold our tape. Let me see if I can show you this close here. If this was my knife, actually, since I'm going to cut this, I'll show you. We take our knife and we just hold it right against the blade. And using our thumb, we just pinch it in there. And you can see now, I got it locked in. Then I use this hand to hold it at the width I want. So basically, we put our knife over here and hold our finger against that side, and it becomes a guide. And then we can just cut all the way down. So I'm going to try and move the camera in closer and let you watch that. Okay, so here's the close-up view. I'm going to take our knife, and all I do is start over here on the outside and pull my knife to that pencil mark, stop it, and then I'm locked on, and just pull down evenly. Make sure you don't do too much of this, or obviously you're going to get a bad cut. So just take your time and pull down, but this is how we do it. When you get close to the bottom, we now just come down here and make that last little bit of a cut. And you can see how fast that can be. If you need really clean straight edge, I'd still go with a T-square, but for a quick cut like this where we've got plenty of allowance where we're going to be putting this is going to speed things up a lot. Now I'm going to show you how to break it. Okay, to break it, what I do is you just grab it, your cut line's here, grab it on both sides like this, pick up on the sheetrock, and then pull out with this hand. So here's the motion. And then set it back down. It'll hold itself up because of this bend. Then reach over with your knife and score. You're only going to score about that far on the back side, right in that V. You don't actually have to cut it all the way. Now you can if you want to, if you're more comfortable with that, go ahead and cut it all the way. Then you put the sheetrock back against the pile like that. Put your hand right here, your foot down there. You can even use your knee and just pull out with your left hand and it'll snap. So you can see that quickly we've got this cut. Now there's one more step you might want to do. It just depends if you need to. Look at your end, and this end came out fairly clean, but let's say I was keeping this end. Look right here, it's not real straight, it's got a goober on it. Well, that's what this is for. You just run that over. About that quick, and it's cleaned up and ready to hang. So that's it for cutting a butt joint. Now that's if you're cutting a bigger one. Now, there's a few things I want to point out. So I think I can do without this piece. So I'm going to show you how to cut a more narrow piece, because the more narrow it gets, the harder it is to snap and break in it, and it kind of has some different rules to it. So let's say we want one that's 4 inches. Okay, we got our cut, 4 inches, but now, see, it doesn't want to snap because you've lost the leverage. So what you do is you basically try and bend just a little bit at a time as you go down. So just taking, this is 5/8 by the way, which will break a lot harder because it's got fiberglass strands in it and is thicker. So now see, I heard it make a little sound. I could hear it tearing in there, so I just get that little bit and then go down. And you can tilt it however works for you guys. So just break a little at a time, and then the whole thing will break over. Now, in this case, you actually need to score, or go ahead and just cut off the whole thing. You can't really score it and snap it because it's so narrow. So. And that's how you cut a small one. Now in my advanced class, I'm going to show you how to cut one that's 1 inch wide. And those are really hard to cut because they like to break. But sometimes you need one that narrow, so if you need to know that, watch for that advanced class and I'll show you that. And coming up next, I'm going to show you how to cut a rip off the long way. Okay, now we're ready to cut a rip, which is the long, narrow pieces. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do that. Now, the way I see a lot of carpenters and non-professionals do this, and this works, is let's say we want a 12-inch wide rip in this case. You come down here, make you a mark at 12 inches, come to the other end, make another mark, chalk a line, get your knife out and trace it. And if you're careful, you can cut a pretty decent piece that way. That's one way. I'm going to show you a much faster way, although if you're not real good at this slide method, I definitely practice first, but if you can get to where you can do this, it's so much faster. So what it amounts to, it's like the cutting the butt joint where we do the same thing. So I'm just going to mark this out with a pencil to show you how it works. Let's say I wanted 8 inches right here. I'd put 8 inches right at the top of that sheet and then lock it in with my finger and then just walk along here. And you can see, you can draw nice parallel lines all day, which that can be handy for marking things out, all kinds of things. Slide cutting and marking is a huge time saver. Now, to actually cut it, we're gonna go ahead and cut the 12-inch piece. And then I need another one that's 11 3/4, which we call 11/6 on the bottom. So I'm gonna cut them both at the same time because it's easier to slide off of this finished edge than to cut this off and then try and slide on this cut edge. So here we go, 12 inches first. And then I have it marked out down here. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut the bottom one. Now, I also need this one a certain length. And in this case, that is 87/6. So this is similar to cutting a butt joint. You can come over here and mark 87 3/4. And then just cut it off of this end without the T-square, or you can get the T-square out if you're more comfortable with that. But we will just go ahead and cut down to that line. Now this one's ready for both. So all you do, it's kind of similar to cutting the butt joint, but these are actually easier in a lot of ways. Just give it a little snap with your hand, and they both break over sometimes. Concentrating too much on video here. There's two ways, once you broke that over, to get this off of here. You can go and bend it over, reach behind, and score the whole thing. You can cut the whole thing, or you can do my method. But let me explain now. If you cut this whole thing while you're holding it up, one end's probably gonna fall while you're cutting and it may break. So if you do it that way, start cutting about here, about a foot from the end, and then cut all the way to the end, and then just kind of snap it off. That way this stays together until you've got a better control of the piece, or lay the sheet down on the floor and cut it that way. The other way is you can just score this scored about that far, and often you can put your knee in here and snap it. And I may be able to show you both ways here, but I'm going to show you a quick way. It depends on kind of what you're doing. If you want, just set that down there. Okay, now you can do this method too. I'll just show you how it works. It's really pretty easy. You just let this fall over, push right on top of the piece you want, and push down, and it'll just fall right off of there like that. Now the one slight disadvantage is you're often left with this paper, you see this paper edge here. So if that's gonna be in your way, you got a couple options. You can trim that back off. If that's just gonna stick into a wall, say, which in this case it's not, you can just go along and just trim that off. It's really pretty easy. So and then, like before, if you have any burrs on here, you can run your rasp down it. But don't forget, on this one we cut it for length, so on these small pieces you can just tear them off. You don't even have to score them. So now that one's all cut, clean, and ready to go. Okay, now what I'm going to show you is a different way to do this bottom one. It's easier when it's a full width sheet, but I should better show you. These often can snap off, kind of like we did on the butt joint. So what you would do is just score it some. So see, I didn't cut all the way through it, I just scored the paper very lightly. And then you just put your knee in the middle, again, kind of like we did with the butt joint, and pull back right here, and it snaps off. So one thing I want to point out about cutting sheetrock is all you're trying to do is cut through the face of the paper. You don't have to cut more than the thickness of the paper. So you're only going for like just a little over, say, 1/16 of an inch. So you're basically scoring it, not trying to cut all the way through or even halfway through. Hey, I hope that helped you out. Remember, we're gonna do an advanced drywall cutting course where we cover a lot more. So be sure and subscribe, click on that little bell icon so you'll know when I release that video. And be sure and check out our store if you need any of these hanging tools. We got them all listed on our store, T-squares, everything I showed you in my pouch, cordless screw guns, whatever you need, you can find those on our store. And I'm trying to recommend the good quality ones on there so you don't have to guess. Sometimes I can recommend a cheap one that will do just fine. For example, on my texture sprayers, I can show you one that costs half or less of what you'd buy at the big box store, and I use it and it works great. So check out my online store, pick up one of our t-shirts, and I will catch you on the next video. Thanks a lot. Hey everybody, it's Guy, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Carla.
And before you go, check out the link we got here on this page. We're going to put some links to things like our website where you can get all kinds of bonus information, our free guide you can download, and more. And thanks for stopping by.
Bye.
See ya.